I've carried a Sig for years. My first carry pistol was a Sig, and my current one still is. And before anyone jumps to conclusions, no, I don't own a P320. That's probably the only reason I've kept my legs intact this long. I'm not saying Sig is evil or that they don't make good guns. I'm just saying their current PR firestorm is less of a fire and more of a controlled demolition of their reputation, and they're the ones holding the detonator. By now, the Sig P320 has become something of a cursed name in certain corners of the firearms world. Ranges are banning it. Law enforcement instructors are banning it. Police departments are shelving it. And Sig is suing everyone they can reach and leaking confidence faster than a P320 allegedly leaks rounds. The story has gotten so loud that even the guy who only shows up to D&D night for the snacks, who has never held anything more dangerous than a plastic fork, knows something's up with a certain polymer pistol. It all kicked off again publicly, at least, with the tragic and mysterious death of a young airman stationed at F.E. Warren Air Force Base. According to multiple reports, his issued M18, which is just a military-dusted version of the civilian P320, discharged while holstered lying on a desk. No one touched it. No one pulled the trigger. Yet it fired. The Air Force isn't known for rash decisions, but even they couldn't ignore this one. Global Strike Command issued an immediate pause in use of the M18 while investigations proceeded. That's a pretty significant move when you consider the scale and seriousness of that branch. And just like that, the walls started closing in. Gunsight Academy, a legendary name in the firearms training world, was among the first to announce it would no longer permit the use of the P320 or its variants in its training programs. With thousands of acres of training ranges and decades of institutional credibility, their announcement carried weight. They made a clear exception for those required to carry the gun for military or law enforcement duty, but even then, they strongly discouraged it. Not exactly a ringing endorsement. Hot on their heels, the National Law Enforcement Firearms Instructors Association followed suit. In an internal email sent to all members, they cited mounting safety concerns and a pattern of unintended discharges, including incidents involving fully holstered P320s. They banned not just the P320, but also the M17 and M18 models, and it didn't stop there. Departments and agencies across the country started putting the brakes on Sig's darling. Washington State's Criminal Justice Training Commission, the Milwaukee and Dallas Police Departments, and even the SCPTA Transit Police in Philly all joined the movement. From Alabama to Connecticut, Florida to Wisconsin, and most recently Massachusetts, the P320 has gone from staple to pariah in record time. And yet Sig's response has been not what you'd expect from a company under pressure. Instead of calmly addressing the growing mountain of concern, they've opted for scorched earth litigation. For example, they've filed suit against Washington State's Police Academy for banning the P320. But they didn't stop at just challenging the policy. No, they're asking a judge to muzzle the Academy's executive director to literally prohibit them from saying anything publicly about the gun. That's not how you rebuild public trust. That's how you scare people into silence. Now, if you're thinking this all seems reactionary, a few nervous instructors overreacting to an isolated case, it's worth pausing and looking at the bigger picture. This isn't just a couple of angry Reddit threads or YouTubers yelling into cameras. These are seasoned trainers, law enforcement officers, and institutional decision-makers pulling back from a firearm that not too long ago was hailed as the next big step in duty pistols. That kind of shift doesn't happen overnight. It certainly doesn't happen without good reason. Sig, however, would like you to believe otherwise. According to their official response, these bans are nothing but overblown, misinformed reactions driven by hysteria politics and their favorite anti-gun sentiment. They claim the firearm is perfectly safe and has undergone the most rigorous testing of any sidearm on the market. That's their line, and they're sticking to it. Which makes it awkward that they're also knee-deep in lawsuits not just against agencies, but from individual officers and civilians who claim their pistols fired without provocation. One of the more high-profile cases involves a Kentucky man who said his holstered P320 discharged and shot him in the leg. His lawsuit was initially dismissed, but the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals later reversed that decision, criticizing the lower court for barring his expert witnesses and throwing out key liability claims. That case is moving forward. Then there's the Cambridge police officer who suffered a similar fate. His P320 went off while he was on duty, injuring him. The jury in that case found the pistol was defectively designed. However, they also ruled the officer was aware of the potential danger and chose to use it anyway, so no damages were awarded. The ruling still stands as a damning mark on Sig's design. But perhaps the most recent and telling case is that of Officer Richard Fernandez in Texas. In January 2025, his P320 again holstered and untouched, discharged, and wounded him. That incident has already led to a lawsuit, and in response, the Houston Police Department made a sweeping move. All officers were instructed to stop carrying the P320 with a full department transition underway. When a major city police force ditches a firearm mid-cycle, that's not politics. That's panic control. Adding to the headache is a now infamous video test conducted by the Wyoming Gun Project. In that footage, a P320 is shown sitting on a desk discharging multiple times without the trigger being fully pulled. With a simple jiggle of the slide, no pressure on the trigger, the gun fired. 5 times. It's unsettling to watch, not because of dramatic effects or editing, but because of how simple, repeatable, and quiet the failure is. The slide had more play than expected, and that mechanical looseness might just be the heart of the problem. Naturally, Sig tried to discredit the video, claiming it was misleading and did not reflect the real-world safety of their pistols. But when the discharges caught on video look exactly like the discharges being reported by real-world officers, it becomes harder to wave things away with a press release. It also doesn't help that behind-the-scenes legal discovery from ongoing litigation began turning up internal company documents. One such document, unearthed during a countersuit, was a risk assessment titled MHS Pistol Failure Modes Effects and Critical Analysis. The version that made its way into the public eye had redactions, or at least it was supposed to. Whoever prepared the file opted for the digital equivalent of scribbling over text with a highlighter set to the same color as the font. The result: the redacted information could be revealed simply by copying and pasting into a plain text editor. Oops. What emerged from that document was more than just a smoking gun, it was a full fireball. Among the findings was an acknowledgement from within Sig, dated February 1, 2017, stating that certain variants of the P320 were not drop-safe. Specifically, the analysis listed unintentional discharges from drops, bumps, or vibrations as a high-risk catastrophic and occasional as per their own matrix. And yet the voluntary upgrade program wasn't offered until August of that same year, 6 months and 1 lawsuit later. As if that weren't enough, Sig's legal team didn't just try to remove the document from the public record, they launched a full-scale effort to seal it and all related testimony. They argued that the report contained trade secrets, that its release would cause irreparable harm to the company, and even in a somewhat dramatic turn, that it might impact national security. Now, whether that's just legal theater or a genuine concern, I'll let you decide. But when you're simultaneously claiming your pistol is the most tested and reliable on the market and fighting tooth and nail to bury a report that says otherwise, you don't exactly inspire confidence. To make things even messier, the leaked document directly contradicts some of Sig's repeated public statements. They've insisted that the P320 cannot fire without a trigger pull, that it passed all drop safety tests, and that the issues reported by officers and civilians alike were either user error or deliberate misinformation. But according to that internal assessment one produced years ago, before many of the lawsuits even began, accidental discharges due to impact were acknowledged as a real high-level risk, and nothing was done about it for months. It's not hard to understand why people are upset, or why departments are abandoning ship. While Sig continues to promote its voluntary upgrade, a program that retrofits older P320s with a new trigger mechanism, many affected users never received clear notice. Others were told their pistols were fine and didn't need the upgrade, only to suffer an incident later. That kind of inconsistent messaging doesn't help a company that's already under siege. And in 2025, with social media turning every discharge into a viral clip, you can't afford to get cute with the truth. Transparency matters, so does timing. Meanwhile, the firearms community itself is splitting down the middle. Some folks are doubling down in defense of Sig, arguing that the lawsuits are politically motivated, that modern duty pistols are inherently dangerous, and that this is all one big media-driven hit job. Others, many of whom are lifelong gun owners, military veterans, and law enforcement instructors, are saying enough is enough. When a firearm is being banned at training academies, rejected by police departments, and shown in video footage firing without a trigger pull, something is wrong. Whether that's a design flaw, a manufacturing inconsistency, or a systemic failure to address known issues, it has to be dealt with. Brushing it off or blaming the user doesn't cut it anymore. It also raises a bigger, more uncomfortable question: what responsibility does a gun company have when their product is widely adopted, but increasingly distrusted? The P320 was chosen for military service. It won massive contracts. It was celebrated as the future of sidearms in the U.S. How did it get to this point where even elite training institutions won't allow it on their ranges? That's not a failure of marketing. That's something deeper. And SIG's current strategy, which seems to revolve around fighting everyone in court while insisting nothing is wrong, feels less like leadership and more like damage control gone rogue. They're not just trying to prove the P320 is safe. They're trying to silence dissent. And for a company in the firearms industry where trust and reliability are everything, that's a dangerous game. As of now, investigations are ongoing. The Air Force hasn't concluded its inquiry into the death at F.E. Warren. Lawsuits are winding their way through the courts. Departments are reassessing their policies. And Sig is still issuing the same statements, still denying any defect, and still promising that their pistol is the most tested and advanced weapon on the market. Maybe they're right. Maybe all of this will blow over, and the P320 will remain in service for years to come. Or maybe, just maybe, this is the moment when the industry and its users finally start holding companies accountable, not just for what they sell, but for how they respond when things go wrong. Because whether it's a holstered discharge, a suppressed document, or a lawsuit buried under legalese, the bigger issue isn't just the gun, it's the silence. And in a world where one pull or lack thereof can change a life forever. Silence isn't just bad PR, it's negligence. For now, the story is still unfolding. But one thing is certain, the P320 isn't just a pistol anymore. It's a symbol of trust, broken of questions unanswered, and of a company struggling to shoot straight with the people who put their faith in it. Time will tell whether that faith can ever be fully restored.